Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. CBR Street Gang, over by 85, over.
All right, let's get the microphone test out of the way here. Let me know if you guys can hear me in the various chats. Jimmy, are you able to get that up and running over there? Okay, we got quite a few in the public chats. We got quite a few in the private chats. Just let me know if you can hear me okay. And we'll go from there. We'll get started here in a little less than a minute. Okay, so I'm getting, so the parsec is up and running. Cool. You guys can hear me okay. Looks like, hello, no name. Thank you. Oh boy, I'm just looking through the chat here. Okay, getting a lot of loud and clears. Good. Mr. No Name, thank you, sir. Yeah, I'll address some of that later. All right, cool. All right, thank you, Baba, Sam, hello. Let's go ahead and get the hellos out of the way here. We've got Bobby, Cheryl, Roka, No Name. We've got, looks like Baba. I think, yeah, and then Sam is here. Awesome. And I know that there's quite a few others that just aren't chatting right now. Welcome. We're going to get started now. Let me get the music under control. Today is going to be a little bit of a shorter stream. And I am a little bit late. I will give you an explanation in just a moment. I I feel as though I have to because I'm usually on time. All right, let me. Where the heck is the music? Goodbye, music. All right. Awesome. We are streaming on YouTube, X, and Twitch. If you are over on the Twitch chat, I would suggest that you head on over to the x.com chat or the YouTube chat where it's a little bit more lively. We also have a few private streams going here for those that cannot access the sites because they are IP blocked or domain blocked at your places of work. Looking at you, Jimmy. Glad we could get the Parsec stuff solved. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it if I can get this organized correctly here. Hello and welcome to Macro Mondays here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is January 15th, 2024. It is a holiday over here in the United States, so there is no open market right now. There is futures trading, though. We are going to take a look at Bitcoin today. Of course, you can see that I have a little bit of a preview chart up here for some of the lower term time frames with a bit of a range, but we're going to start out with the normal chart here, the Bitcoin in 60 seconds chart. I'm going to basically show you what I'm looking for and what is possible in the coming days here. I will have a recorded video out tomorrow, at least if plans go correctly. A little late today due to had some family stuff going on where I needed to be available. Nothing crazy, nothing bad, just needed to be there. So took care of that stuff. And this is going to be a little bit of a shorter stream today because the Bills game, for those of you that know, I'm a big Bills fan. You might call me a diehard Bills fan. Their game got pushed to today at 1:30 my time. So I will be hopefully wrapping this up before then so I can go watch the game. All right. Let's start off with the Bitcoin in 60 seconds chart here. This is typically the chart that is seen on the Bitcoin in 60 seconds videos that are uploaded to the shorts section here on YouTube and uploaded to x.com. You'll often see this video now, this chart, even in the Staring at Charts series. I know some of you don't like that name. I think that people who stare at charts will get it. Yeah, anyway, let's revisit our yellow line that we added in the lower term timeframes real quick, actually, before I start getting into other stuff. You'll note that we had some volume come in right around this. We had a high volume low come in. This also coincided with a consolidation before Bitcoin went up and swung that monthly. And this area was very important around 44.6 to 7, depending on your exchange. It got held up on very high volume. You may remember that I said if this area was dropped, then we're looking to the weeklies. So that has since occurred. And, a beautiful, beautiful step down right to the weekly there at 43.2. And then subsequently a close open right on that 41.8 weekly. Nice little wick below there to clear out people with stops just below the weekly. And then we have seen Bitcoin swing that area again here on the 15-minute and then head back towards the top side of the weekly there at 43.2. So the 41.8 pretty well cleared now and then testing the top side of this weekly. And I had mentioned that I did figure that this would come down here and then just start bouncing around. Now, if this area does break down, you can see that there's quite a bit of volume into the weekly here. And then even, the first weekly up here at 43.2, and then another nice bit of volume here at the 41.8 weekly. So if this area is dropped, we're looking to our big zone down here that is actually not that big of a zone, but a very important zone, I should say, here at this weekly at 39,000 to 38,500. Of course, if that is dropped, then there is a much bigger zone just down below at 37,700 to 36,2 to 3 or so. And if Bitcoin's going to head down there, we might as well be on the lookout for the possibility of that $35,000 monthly to 34,750 weekly. And I'm going to show you why in just a moment on our weekly chart over here. So we're going to go over to the weekly chart here, and we're going to observe what has happened with our Bollinger Bands. Now, the Bollinger Band setup, pretty simple here. And just keep in mind that, Bitcoin is still it closed above the upper first and then opened below it, but then regained it, at least in the early goings here this week. So this isn't meeting the criteria just yet for what I'd be looking for, but the possibilities are there for the basis band. So, the typical criteria when using triple Bollinger Bands, as I really struggled to say that just then. Let's see. Let's try that again. When looking at the criteria that we typically want to see with triple Bollinger Band setups, you want to see a clean close open below the upper first, but a close open where the upper first passes the candle close open here, which is coming in at 41,697, is also valid for this week. So that does mean that basically if this week Bitcoin begins to drop the upper first, the basis is the primary downside target. Secondary downside target from the weekly Bollinger Band level perspective would be the lower first. That, of course, is coming in at $29,000. That does not mean that price would immediately get there, and you're probably seeing a lot of $30,000 calls. This is some confluence being lent to that, to be quite honest, but I would take that basis first, and it would still need to get through the local zones and get through that 38.5 monthly to begin with, and I'm not totally convinced that price is going to do it just yet. I haven't seen any clear signs. I'm going to show you what is giving me some caution in terms of looking for further downside, at least immediately, here in just a moment. But I did want to follow up with the weekly basis band now being at that $35,000 monthly support area. We can see that a little bit clearer over here on the support and resistance chart. When looking at this mess of support and resistance, let's go ahead and just kind of zoom in here so we can see that the basis band, it is about $500 above the monthly support area right here, which has been tested. We must also, call out that this 38.5 monthly was tested a few times as well. Even though these wicks fall short of it, they're coming in just at $38,000. That's front running the monthly. So this area is going to be a big one, and only if I see that area, I should say, break down, would I be looking for this weekly zone to the basis, possibly the monthly down here to that weekly just below it at 34,750. But the monthly there at $35,000, what you would see on the Bollinger Bands this week, it would be good for this week only, is if we do start seeing the upper first dropped on the lower term timeframes, we start to see the local range at around $40,000. In particular, this Monday, December 4th weekly candle, this is going to be the one. If you see this area dropped, that's when we're going to start seeing these weeklies and monthlies tested in this area here down to the basis. But the basis is likely to adjust or react to price real time during the week before close. So this would only be valid for this week. And in that case, what I would be looking for is for that basis to start, kind of pulling back in on itself to this monthly weekly area, thus giving us a lot more confluence for that zone. Still, it is close enough to that zone to be confluent even from where it is right now. So I do want you to be very aware of that fact. What was that? Okay, I think everything's fine. I have no idea though. You good? Okay. Sorry about screaming in everyone's ears. Anyway, let's go ahead. Okay, yeah, everything's good. Let's go ahead and look at the Stoke pivot here. Pivot number has come down to 46,134. Still in the oversold zone. Beware if you're really, really bearish. Beware of that area. $46,000 or so. I would say $46,000 even, 46.5. If that area gets regained, beware that being super bearish right here, right now, might not be the best idea if you start seeing that number closed above on any daily candles. So Doesn't mean that it's going to close the weekly up there, but I would just keep a very close eye on it. For the local range, even on this weekly, if we kind of take the wick to wick or this open, doesn't really matter. We can look at the fibs. We can see that the big area overhead is this 618 at 45,620. So that would be your warning that weekly pivot is going to go get tested if you start seeing dailies close above this 618 for this local range. Basically, even though there was a little bit of an outside close from this December 4th bar, I would still consider this inside bars. That's a little bit of an outside deviation on the close, but everything's been relatively sideways within this bar that originally printed early December. So, this would be valid to be looking somewhere around the mid $45,000 region. You start seeing price close rather above there. That's your warning sign that pivot is likely going to go get reached for or tested at minimum. And when comparing this to what we're seeing on the daily, let's go drop down to the daily really quick here. You can see that in terms of band levels, we've got the upper first standard deviation right there. So if the upper first standard deviation is reclaimed, then the next big area that we're looking for to go get tested is somewhere around the upper second. And that would be, of course, $47,000, which means that the weekly would likely get tested, or we might see that weekly get tested around the mid $46,000 region. So just be aware of that. Keep an eye out for it. Now, obviously, Bitcoin's got some work to do right here, but it could easily throw a hidden bull div when looking at RSI. That would be from, let's see, right here. So it'd be these two lows right here. Bitcoin could very easily throw a bullish divergence. You can see that the scale midline and the SMA are going to be the first things I'm going to point out here. Scale midline is coming in at 43,500, which is going to be a local pivot. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. I think Bitcoin's pushing up to that area anyway, or on the bottom side of that weekly, as we just saw, around 43,200. So SMA is going to be where? Well, that's going to be at $45,500 or so. This would adjust in real time on the daily. So right now it is at around 45,350. But if Bitcoin starts to trade into the $44,000 region, you're going to see this kind of adjust up a little bit, likely into the 45.5 region. And, go figure, we've got our upper first there. So that would basically be regain the basis, which is coming in at around 43,860. If we do see that happen, then where are we looking? We're looking for a test up to the upper first around the 45.5 region. That's also got confluence with the SMA there of RSI, which is a 12 period if you want to ever put one on or add one if your RSI doesn't have it. We can see that the pivot for the daily is all the way up there at 47,500. But if we see a low being set, that pivot's going to come down as price is rising. So that's where you get the flip in a regular Stoke, because Stoke is measuring close over close price action. Again, this is not a Stoke RSI. This is a regular Stoke. What else did I want to cover here? All right. So I mentioned the 43,500. Let's go to the 12-hour. This is the setup that I am watching right now. So you can see the Stoke was, okay, it did adjust. There was another closure. I just hadn't looked at it. Or maybe I did, and I'm just keeping that 43,500 locked in my head. 42,670 or so is going to be the 12-hour momentum pivot. Now, that does mean that in the next 12-hour close, watch for a possible complete cross-up and or an initial cross-up K over the D read. The 12-hour, of course, you can see that we are trading right now about $200 to $300 above, give or take, the low term time frame ticks right now. But more importantly, we're testing this lower first standard deviation. If this is going to be a strong trend to the downside, this area would be rejected. We would see a 12-hour high put in here, and then subsequently followed that up with a close below the 12-hour low that takes out the wick lows of the range, thus getting us that test into the $39,000 weekly, 38,500 monthly area, and then we come back to it. All right, so that's what would happen, or what we would want to see if this is going to be bearish. But if it does regain the lower first, where's the basis? The basis is up there at 44,500. And then we have the upper first on the 12-hour right around that weekly. Now, the weekly, again, is at like 46.5 to 600. The upper first, if Bitcoin regains the basis on the 12 hours, likely to adjust. And that's kind of coming in right in that general area. This is at 46,200. So it's about $300 to $400 lower than the weekly pivot. But if Bitcoin starts to trade and close candles above that basis, we're likely to see this adjust a little bit. Maybe it contracts, maybe it expands. It depends on how fast Bitcoin would be able to get there. Now, on the other hand, rejections at the basis and upper first would be lower highs, right? So be aware of that. But if this is going to be a very strong trend, things are going to get real dumpy. What you'd be looking for is failures around the lower first. That would be, really looking for immediate downside. Immediate to intermediate downside would be failures at the lower first to the basis. And then your typical lower highs would come in around the upper first zone, in between the upper first, upper second, that don't breach and close above the latest highs, right? So in this case, if it does reclaim that upper first at 46.2 to 3, then I would be looking to the upper second. That's around 47,900 currently. So we're looking at almost $48,000 at the highs then. We're looking at basically a run back to the highs. I would expect if it's going to do that, it's probably going to push up and try to run the wicks, maybe hit that $50,000 area. Likely to see what happened? Well, we would be looking for the daily then to shift momentum, bullish divergence to take over, and for some deeper targets to get hit and then come back to it later. Right now, we do have a trend break, so that's what everybody's clamoring about. 12 hours got a trend break. Just about every time frame on the daily as well has got a trend break, right? But I mean, let me just point you back to the weekly. We have not yet seen the high paint. Now, you will get indicators that will indicate that this is a high. You'll notice that this one doesn't. The one that I'm using, which is the KV. No, that is the... what is that one? That is that's Caretaker's RSI. That is a paid RSI, but there's plenty of RSIs that have fancy stuff. You can find pretty much anything that's like that. I just like supporting developers that do great work. Like Caretaker, I have no affiliation with them over there at app.chronotrading.net, but I will plug them because the developers over there are fantastic. All right. I just beware. As long as this is trading above the upper first, upper second is available, which also makes that high wick at 49K available. If it does drop that upper first, then we're looking to the local range. If it drops 40K, then we're starting to look for those lower targets. That's really the criteria. It's pretty simple. Let's go ahead and just check. So what I'm going to be watching for at close today is this 12-hour and the 12-hour pivot. If it closes above this 42,660, 670 area, then we're looking at at minimum an initial cross back to the upside for momentum. What would we need to see on the chart here? Well, we need to see these wicks get taken out on a close minimum, and that is at 43,250. So 43,250 is going to be one of the other areas that I was looking at recently. I don't know. I just called it out. It's one of the standard deviations to the downside. 43,250. Yeah, I don't remember. Anyway, that's going to be what I'm going to be looking for. 12-hour low being set, then raise the targets a little bit. You might be able to, just call out like 43, 6 to 7 to 44K. Maybe it gets front run ahead of that basis, or the basis heads down towards 44K. I would just be looking to wherever the basis ends up. Currently trading at that 44,500. Wouldn't be out of the ordinary to see it drop down to like 44.2 to 44K, which would be somewhere around this consolidation, low side of this consolidation structure. Right now it's got to regain this low right here, which is coming in at around 42,862 on a close. You can see that this area has not been closed above, right? It's got to take out its local wick highs to then go and at minimum test up to around the deeper 43,000 to 44K level, then take it up to that wherever the basis is, and from there the upper first, upper second area at the highs. That's what I'm going to be watching coming into close today. That is the prime setup. Now, if the 12-hour does confirm a cross back to the upside, that's when you do need to keep a close eye on the 4-hour. I would be looking for expansion. In this case, the upper second getting taken out is going to be at the 42,300 area. No, I'm sorry, it's actually 42,4 to 5, 43,4 to 5. Jeez, get it right. Yeah, 43,420, 43,430. So basically 43,4 to 5. We're looking at all generally in the same area. Still above there. Need to see 44K to 44.5 getting taken out to start really looking for markups. Excuse me. If we do start seeing closes below the lower second that get follow through below the local wick low at around 41,500 or so, that's when we can start looking at the very low side of the range, somewhere around the 40,500 to 41K, possibly down to run $40,000 even. This is going to be very telling because we are seeing the compression really get rolling here. And by the time we probably see a move, it's probably going to get ready, I would imagine, somewhere. If it doesn't happen tonight, it's likely going to happen on market open on Tuesday or just before market open. We have seen a lot of that, a lot of front running of U.S. market open. So, whether it's positioning for larger moves to the upside or downside doesn't really matter. We have seen that quite a bit lately. And, I wouldn't presume to know what is going to happen on Tuesday. But what I will tell you is there's a lot of advertising going on from the big players. Your BlackRocks, your VanEck, your Fidelity trust fund guys are really, really hammering this stuff. They even had voluntary holiday training today. So it was a voluntary thing, like a professional development style thing, but it's all focused on Bitcoin ETFs. And it's like if you are a brokerage manager, portfolio manager at a brokerage and you want to attend, you can. So that's why there are some guys, also there's guys trading futures today. So there are people in and around the markets today, but there is next to no liquidity in comparison to what we're going to see probably on Tuesday. So in this case, keep a very close eye on compression and possible expansion. Again, expansion needs to take out this level here. It needs to reclaim the low and close above the upper second. Otherwise, and you need to see continuation in the following candles for expansion. That's both to the upside and downside. And from there, you also want to keep an eye on the 4-hour to the hourly, right? So the time frames below, I use the 3-hour, 2-hour, 1-hour. I mainly focus on the 2-hour and 1-hour just to kind of generally get direction. In this case, closes back below 42.2 will turn Stoke back to the downside. We can see that the 2-hour is kind of flopped over, but it's flip-flopping around here. 42,900 to 43K would turn this back to the upside. You can see multiple drives of bullish divergence here, but it's all kept within the range. So if we don't see follow-through, meaning reclaim of some of those lows on expansion, then, we just wait until one of two things happen. It either reclaims those areas overhead or it starts to break down from this consolidation structure. And then we can go down to the hourly. And the hourly to 2-hour interplay, I want to tell you, is something very, very powerful. So you can see that the hourly is facing up right now. It is rejecting around the upper second standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands here. But not a death sentence. If it comes back down, it can even hold that lower first right now, and that's coming in around the 43.4 area, likely to tick up to around 42.4, and likely to tick up to somewhere around 42.5. And we can see that the hourly is showing the possible reversal of Stoke in this case back to the upside, and the pivot is just below that lower first standard deviation, and that is coming in at 42, 260, 270 area. So, there is the possibility that this could come back down and test those downside areas and then flip right back around and head up. If it starts to lose that lower first and this higher low that it's got going on here, it does have a little bit of an uptrend going. But if it does come down and take this, higher low out at the lower second, which is coming in at 42.2, which is actually right around that pivot. So below there, then I'd be looking for the low side of the range, these lows to get swept around 41.5 to 41.8 at the weekly. If it starts to drop that area, again, we're looking down further. Let's go ahead and move on. I think I made that stuff pretty clear. You go ahead and let me know in chat if you have any questions before I move on to traditional markets. We're going to start ripping through this stuff pretty quick, because there's not much to say, as there isn't any opens. Just I'm going to be checking up with you guys just to kind of pick up where we left off on things that you want to look for coming into market open tomorrow. For those of you in public chat, go ahead and let me know if there's anything you wanted me to touch on before I move on as well. I'll give you a moment to catch up. Looks like everything's all good. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at Dixie to start, because Dixie is trading right now. You can see that Dixie is trying to regain that upper first standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands here. That is coming in at 102.5. If it does regain that on a close, it makes the wicks available again. Also, it's got to regain. It's basically this low here at around 102.65 to the upper second. That's kind of the zone right now. You could even say upper first to upper second because of the way that the Bollinger Bands are lining up with this wick low of this low over here, and the upper second, basically being around the highs roughly. And that is around 103. If it does take out that wick high slightly above 103 at 103.10, then we're looking for just a little bit more to get to around that 103.17 to 103.20 wick low over here to this close open structure at around 103.5. Above there, then we're targeting, that would be expansion back to the upside. We would be looking somewhere around 104 to 104.25 at this rejected area, to 104.5, and then come back to it later. Could possibly push up into that 105 overhead resistance as well, which is the next low above this high side structure, which was just a swing. As a low was not set, it was just continuation. A low was set just a little bit slightly lower here at the 103.5. So big thing to watch would be a 103.5 close, because that would indicate expansion back to the upside to go test these deeper targets. Now, if it does head around these highs and or start messing around in this 102.50 to 103 area and fail, just watch that basis. It's going to skate along this 102 even support zone to the upper 101 area, around 101.70 to 80. If that area is dropped, then we're looking down to the lower first at 101.5. Below there, the lower second at 101. And if that is dropped, we're looking at the actual lows. And if they fail, of course, the actual lows are coming in around 186 cents to around 161 cents. Below there, it could swing it at 150 cents and pop right back up. But I would just take it 50 cents at a time, 100, 99, 50, 99, so on and so forth. That's kind of the way it's been trading for a while anyway. when we've been looking at some of the major targets, especially because that would be on expansion below 101. So I would be looking for a technical test of the lows and then a possible breakdown or be on breakdown watch at the very minimum. When looking at gold, which is open and trading right now, we can see that the upper first area is the next area likely to get tested, as we had said on Friday. The close above the basis makes this upper first area or zone a viable target. It does need to get above here to continue up and test the upper second. Now the upper first is coming in around 2062 above there, and I would look for the upper second to this overhead resistance to get tested, and it's basically the same area. I'd basically be looking somewhere around 2,080 bucks. If it gets front run a little bit at the highs here, which are coming directly, the upper second's coming directly in line at 2,077. I would still think, that would be, a valid strike zone. If we do see the basis dropped at around 2,048, 2,050, be aware that lower first is now basically in line with the $2,000 support resistance area. Below there, we're looking at the lower second, which is basically in line with that's 2033. My brain is completely messed up right now on this. Below there, we'd be looking down to this big low side area where we have seen, attempted low put in, failure. It was a swing low to swing high failure. That went down and tested into the 1980 to 1965 zone of interest down here. So basically, if 2016 bucks gets dropped, we're looking somewhere around $2,000, 2010 as kind of a zone over here at 2000 to this wick low at 2010. Below there, we're looking for this zone again at 1980 to around 1965. Not my first take on what's going on here. We do have a Stoke shift. 2030 is going to be the pivot, so it does need to maintain that. We do have a bullish divergence playing out as well. The bullish control zone is up here at around 2071. So, I do figure if it starts trading up towards 2071, it's got to get above this upper first at 2060. It's likely going to go test around that 2,080 bucks, somewhere around these highs. Above there, then we're looking for it to fill out this wick here in the 2100 area or so to 2150. Above there, looking for 22 to 250 over time. The traditional markets are not going to be open and trading right now, but let's just remind ourselves where we are and what is happening. As it currently stands, Dow is above the basis. Basis is coming in at 37,500 basically. It is going to be a little bit above there when this opens on Tuesday. Just understand that as long as it's trading and closing now above this lower second standard deviation and this bear candle to the previous all-time high, so that is going to be generally the same area. You can just basically take the bear candle at this point at 37, we'll give it a range, 37,100 to around 36,950. It's good to keep consolidating and trying up and to the right. When looking at Stoke, it closed at, what did it close at? The bear candle close came in at 37,592, so almost 37,600. We can see the Stoke pivot was 37,560. This is in a weird spot where it might actually be above because of the open on the bear candle from Friday. So we might see the pivot adjust above. Yes, the close did meet Stoke still remaining to the upside, but it could flip down on the next open. So just look at a regular Stoke there and be aware of that. We do have declining strength in this area, but this is more indicative of a consolidation. You can see this reflected in the pinch or the compression of the bands, if you will, and the 0 BBWP read, meaning there is a big move coming. Now, of course, above the upper second and closes above the upper second would be already above the highs. You'd just be looking for continuation to new highs. if it starts to close below the lower second, it also needs to breach support areas. So it needs to breach the lows here and then get continuation down through the all-time high here to go and test somewhere around the mid to low $36,000 region. Let's go ahead and take a look at NASDAQ. We can see that NASDAQ is in lower high territory, but if it can recover above the upper first here, which is coming in at 16,866, likely to be somewhere around 16,900 to 950 when it opens, which is, it's going to be right around the highs. Basically, it's got to trade and close back above there. Then we're targeting the highs at just under 17,000 to the upper second, which is just over 17,000, coming in currently at 17,050 bucks. Above there, I'd be looking, I'd look for this to update to around 17,100, to be quite honest. Basis, as long as that is held, looking good. It would put in a high right now, technically on any close below this closure here at 16,820, but realistically for the real high, you'd want to see it drop this and the basis and this open over here at 16,700 to the basis, which is likely going to be around that area. It's coming in at 16,678, so basically 16,700. If it drops that, that's where you're looking at the real high on a close being put in, even though some indicators might tell you that the high's in around that 16,820 region. You still got to give it a little bit of room, and you'd still want to see the wick here taken out on a closing basis at 16,618. Below there, you're looking to the lower first. That is coming in at 16,500. Below there, we're looking to the actual lows. This is where it's basically good to trade all the way down here, as long as it doesn't close below the lower second and close below this low, which there's support directly below. But, this is coming in at 16,300. The actual lows coming in at 16,250. So if it drops 16,250 on a close, looking a little bit further down to 16,166 to the open here, there was also a close, close open right on this wick over here. So anywhere between 16,166 to this wick close open area at around 16,100. Below there, we're looking at the bottom side of this range realistically, somewhere around the upper 15,000, 700 to 800. If it dropped that 15,700 area, then we're looking for a gap fill all the way back to the low 15,000, around 15,300 or so. I'm sorry, the 15,500. Right? So 15,700, then we'd be looking, about 200 points down, 15,500 for a nice little gap fill. Now, that flies in the face of what we're seeing with momentum currently. Just be aware, if a high is put in, the stock momentum is more likely to shift down. So in this case, 16,300 is the momentum pivot. This will update probably somewhere around where our lower first is, around that 16,500 area, maybe slightly above it. That is to say that momentum likely on Tuesday wouldn't shift unless you saw a high put in and then the lower first taken out around 16,500. So that'd be the key area to watch to the downside. Key area to watch to the upside is the local wicks around 16,900. Above there, we're looking for the 17,000 basically. We're looking for the highs again to 17,100. Above there, I would take it about 100 to 200 points at a time, 200 to 400 or so after that. Let's look at SPY. Again, SPY also looking much like NASDAQ in that Stoke has pointed to the upside. 467 is a pivot, likely to update to 469 because why not? Love the meme numbers. Traditional markets love them. Crypto markets love them. All markets love them. So in this case, as long as SPY is closing in my opinion, above the upper first, it's looking to continue up and test into its prior all-time high around, 480. That's where the upper second is. If it closes above there, looking for a continuation, 485, 490, and then 495 to 500. I would be looking eventually 520 over time. Now, and if the upper first is dropped and this wick low is dropped, that's where we would likely see most indicators paint a high for RSI. This is coming in at 475. That's where we start looking to the basis here and this open. So this open here is coming in at 474.16. Basis is currently at 473.08. If that see an open that closes below this topside structure, you will see a high paint on a close, but you really need to see the candle, the up candle or the bull candle taken out, the open minimum. Need to see that wick dropped to then start looking lower to around the 470 to the lower first at 469, which is likely where the momentum pivot will be for a regular stoke. Thus, if on Tuesday SPY were to close below 469, not only would it be funny and a meme number, but that would also be dropping the lower first. We'd be looking down to the lower second, somewhere around the low side structure here at around 466, 465 region. If that's dropped, we're marking that down to around 460 down here, this support resistance area. That is going to be it for me today. I'm going to head back to the Bitcoin charts real quick here. We'll drop down to the 15-minute. I'm going to read through the chats real quick because I do have about 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes before I want to get out of here and get ready to watch, hopefully, a good game of football. We'll see. Let's go ahead and turn on volume. And let's turn on my zones of interest real quick. Now, I'm going to show you real quick before I just peruse the chats here what this zone of interest is. This is the high volume low of the current consolidation, and then we have that high volume wick low area from the this was the SEC account getting hacked and saying that they approved the ETFs. This wick low came in around then. Very, very high volume. Will act as overhead resistance around that 44,700 to that close open coming in at 46K up there. And then the low side area here is around 41.8, which is the weekly, to the current wick low, which is on decent volume as well. That is coming in at around 44,450 to 44,500, depending on your exchange. It might even be lower. Now, you can look at this entire drop down. There's high volume here, and of course, these high volume candles, you can mark these if you like, because it's a more condensed range that price is trading in. You can mark these candles in and around here, in particular the highest volume one if you like. And I use the yellow for the closes and then white for the wicks. And you can see the interplay here, and you can just kind of monitor the local range pretty easily this way. You know, if this local range is broken through, which just so happens to be right around a weekly at 43,200 to 43,500 or so. You know, if we start seeing this yellow close regained, which is coming in at around 43,500, in this case on Coinbase Spot, it's 43,476.61. Well, that would be regaining this big high volume area that did provide for a little bit of bounce before redistribution. Now, you'd want to also see the high taken out. You can mark off that stuff. And this is not following the volume map for continuation that we had done before. This is just local volume mapping within a range for bracket trading, if you like. But you can see that the high side of this little consolidation also had some rejected volume here at around $44,000. Above there, then you're looking 44.5 to this wick low at 44,700. And then above there, you're looking at the low side of the consolidation over here being potentially rejected, potentially reclaimed. There is $45,000 in here. Remember, that is a high that was put in, one of the first highs that was put in up here, to around $46,000 on the close. If $46,000 is reclaimed, watch out for that weekly pivot overhead. If dailies start closing above there, we're going to see the highs and higher, maybe intra-week. If the weekly closed above there, of course, then it's, you know, looking like continuation to the upside. But other than that, judging by where the weekly is in terms of expansion, one more thing I forgot. Something that you do need to know, and you should pay very, very close attention to, is this. BBWP is diving 16.667. Gotta have the freaking devil's number in there, huh? And the SMA is at 48. So what this looks like in charted format on the weekly for BBWP, which is a free indicator, just grab it on the under the indicators tab. You can see that BBWP is falling off a cliff here, which means that if it rises again, the only way that it's really going to pick up volatility is if we start seeing it close above the upper first to the upper second. But it's diving so hard that it could swing this area and higher, and I would still be looking for pretty strong rejections. Not until I see a nice compression to re-expansion would I be looking for a much longer sustained move. Other than that, I could see consolidation sideways that keeps spiking up and maybe even down. That is something that I forgot to point out. All right, let me go ahead and turn on the tunes. We'll stare at this 15-minute range for a little bit. And I'm going to read through the chats real quick. So, tunes, where are you? Let's do this. Okay. Let me jump over into the public chats. Yeah, I can see you guys chatting over there in the private area. Yeah, I wish you guys could chat with these folks over in public. I'm telling you, just have them whitelist only my channel. I know that it's very tough to do. Okay, so let's see, Bobby, he's just here for the tunes. Oh, that's before I came on. Cheryl says hi. Cheryl agrees. Only listen to tunes, no charts. She's tired of trading. Last night she had a lot of small trades on Sol play out. Nice. Roka's here. No Name's here. Yes, I text with you, Mr. No Name. Can we begin here? Oh, we can begin because they're here. Okay, I see. You're more than welcome to dock me points. Yes, Cheryl, my son is fine. I believe I told Mr. No Name to tell you guys that because I was away. He did text me. Yep. Okay, yeah, I was on the phone with Jimmy. I had to help Jimmy get, there was an issue with Parsec. Probably up too long trading. I was up a little late. Yeah, I was up a little late being a degen. Oh boy, here we are. Yep. Yes, Mr. No Name, I have been being a degenerate gambler. Uh-huh. Oh, bonk. Well, I did buy bonk. I did at one point. I probably still have it. Oh, okay. My headphone audio is coming through to you guys. My apologies. Let me fix that. Okay. I was trying to enjoy the beats too. Let's see. Bobby says we kept him awake shilling mints. Yes, ordinals. No Name. Thank you, buddy. Yes, Roka and Bobby specifically are a bad influence. Specifically those two. But they are wonderful, wonderful people. I appreciate that, No Name. Yeah, no, everybody here that's chatting, that has been interacting. You guys are all awesome. And I do really care about getting you guys accurate information and, you know, helpful analysis. That's what I'm here for, and it's all free. Not gonna ever charge for any of this crap because it's just that you learn how to do a technical analysis from me. You should be able to do it on your own and be just as good. It's not. It takes a while to get it down. It does. But once you got it down pat, the basics, you just need to understand trend, support, resistance, volatility, and momentum, and then you're good to go. There's a lot of intricacy in that and a lot of other knowledge in that, but you know, once you understand that it's those four domains or those four concepts that are the keys, it's pretty easy to start nailing it down. Hi Sam, hi Baba. Okay. Nothing, you bumpy. Yeah. And then everybody just letting me know that you can hear me. Okay, so I guess there is no... Do I ever check the Death Cross? Nope, don't care about it. Death Cross, Golden Cross, don't care. I'm a day trader. I mean, it's... Look, if you get a Death Cross and Golden Cross, they're latent signals. They could mean continuation. They could mean nothing. It really depends. They're more of a meme than anything else. So. There are confluent time frames that you're going to find that are going to be more important than others. You know, if you're talking about like the daily Death Cross, it's not nearly as important as the uptrend that's happening on the weekly. Could it lead to a high being put in and, you know, price falling further? Sure. Does it matter? No, we've already got those levels picked out. Here's my next video. Should have one out tomorrow. I should be getting back into the 60-second videos as well. We got to see some like real, like we got to see a range break. Like there's no sense of me updating people when we're just within the range. You know, that's why, you know, we had a video and explaining what my thoughts were when things started to head down. We have the live streams, stuff like that. Now, Sam, I did want to just come back to the Death Cross, Golden Cross stuff. Look, it is valuable in terms of longer term time frames in understanding that there is shifts that are happening. But other than that, it's not relevant to like the kind of analysis we're doing. Now, if you're a holder or an investor, it might be of more interest to you, you know, because mean reversion is a thing, right? A Death Cross, just understand that when a Death Cross occurs, you're typically going to get mean reversion into it. And you can just use Bollinger Bands and BBWP to track when that mean reversion is going to occur. And the same to the upside for Golden Crosses. And there's statistics for longer term uptrend and downtrends. I mean, that's what it is. It's showing that there's a bit of a trend shift. Now, but it's latent. By the time you get a Death Cross, you've already have either a trend break or a trend shift. By the time you get a Golden Cross, you're seeing some sort of, you know, trend shift occur, whether it's a trend break or a trend resuming or continuing like an already existing trend to the upside in many cases. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, after to basically put it this way, I don't put a lot of weight on it. For my type of analysis, you're seeing the cream of the crop of my type of analysis that has netted us some of the most accuracy that you'll most likely find on YouTube. I'm not saying I'm the most accurate, but it's going to be the highest accuracy that you're probably going to run into in terms of zones of interest. You know, there's other guys who also do very accurate analysis for zones of interest, you know, chief among them being Crown from Eric Crown Crypto Now. You've got a few others on YouTube that also do a great job. The Pizzino brothers, like I've said, are wonderful. I think they do a great job. I don't always agree with any of them, you know, you don't have to, but I respect their analysis. Their zones of interest usually are very confluent with my own. Same with guys like Credible Crypto and Rickus and I think Ted. I don't know, I forget his full username over there. There's a few other guys that I think also do very good work. Doesn't mean I always agree or endorse what they're saying on the lower term time frames, but generally I think that I think that their methods are sound. and they have they have to have invalidations for their ideas. If somebody doesn't give you the invalidation for their idea, then they are directionally biased and probably aren't very good traders, and you probably should not be paying attention to them. Now, in this case, all the people I just mentioned have invalidation levels, and that's what you need to know. And the invalidation level should not continuously move. Like, for instance, the bears that wanted 10 to 12K, their invalidation levels for that were all the way down at like 26 and then 30, and then that became 33 and then 35 and then 37 and 38. Now it's 50, 55. It's going to be the all-time high, something like that. So that moving invalidations are not a way to, but if somebody's doing that, then they're probably not shooting you straight. They got funny business going on. Either they don't know what they're talking about, or they're just not very good. I hate saying that, but it's probably true. Yeah, there's a lot of good people. I often disagree with their analysis, but that's because you're seeing what I do. In terms of people who are going to give you direction, you notice I don't give you direction. I give you an if-then. It's like programming languages. If then this happens, else this happens, But it's basically if then to the upside, if then to the downside. These are the areas that we look for. And the areas that we've looked for, since even you've been here, pretty darn accurate. Sometimes accurate to the penny. Sometimes you get lucky like that. But that's going to be it for me today. I got a football game to go watch. Go Bills. You guys have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. With all of that being said, Landy out. Take care.